We don't get Ferrari performance out of an old Lada banged up vehicle.
Are you talking sheep and cattle or just sheep?
Both. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Get down where the sheep are and use your nose.
And you've often asked them to send through photos of the feces.
If you think about bug populations and think about it from a pie perspective, I've seen some people do 14 feeds a day.
14?
14.
Rob, I want to specifically talk about the economics of feedlotting, and I want to break it down into three component parts that farmers see. The first is return on investment. So that is what they're getting for their vitamin mineral premix, what they're getting for the interventions such as the vitamin regime or drenches. The return on capital, and that is how much money are they making out of the trade. And then as that compounds up, the return on equity. So how does that then contribute to the business's overall profit performance? So can we just start with the ROI? So why would I buy one vitamin mineral premix over another? Ours versus our competitors?
I think, you asked that from a very economist standpoint, and it's really, the definitive ratios that businesses calculate. I must probably simplify that. For me, it basically sits in the one pool.
Okay.
Because they're so interrelated. Now, if we think about the key drivers of profitability is time. Now, time and speed of throughput is really what generates ROI, ROE, and ROC. So if we think about that, is how fast can we get an animal to move from a 35 kilo lamb to a 60 kilo lamb is all about time. Now, the important part about time is we've got 365 days a year. If we divide that by 50, it gives us about 5 stock turns a year. So we get that $1 and we invest it in the business, we can multiply it 5 times. If we do 60 days, we only multiply it by 4 times. So there's a huge difference in the economic outcome based on the time it takes to move an animal from induction to exit.
Yeah.
Now, to specifically answer your question around premixes, we need to think about this in the context that we want to be driving Ferraris and we're going to tip the premium fuel into those Ferraris and we need to hold on them and drive them as hard and fast as we can. Now, we don't get Ferrari performance out of an old Lada banged up vehicle. So we need to think about that context is that everything we are doing is at a premium level. Everything we're doing it is at the most controlled, specific, scientifically understood way of doing things. So when it comes to putting premixes together or whether, our diet selection, it's got to be about where do I get the most bang for my buck? And if we spend a few more dollars, does it decrease time and therefore give us a bigger multiplier? So the premix is about managing acidosis, supplying the right vitamin mineral premixes, really compounding the effect of the grain feeding from a nutrient profile. Does it have the right mineral balance to really capture the value? And these, we spoke about it earlier, is that these animals have huge genetic potential and our responsibility is to express it. So the harder and faster we can push them, the more the return on equity, return on capital and return on investments are delivered. So I know it's most probably bundling all those things together, but it's really important that if we're going to do something that is the top shelf, that we don't cut corners.
Yeah.
And I guess being in this game as long as I have, is it's really easy to slap a label on the bag that says it contains X, Y, and Z. It doesn't necessarily tell you what's in it sometimes. So for me, it's always been about getting the highest quality products put into a premix that delivers the most value. So it's about return on investment, return on capital, return on equity, and it all comes back to that speed. The faster we get those animals to move and to motor and to get going, the faster we flip those dollars over, and it all contributes back to that economic baseline.
It is really around the time value of money, and you combine that with the speed at which you convert carbohydrates or grass into protein is the speed at which you sell them. And to a market that's ready to buy them as well. That's the interesting part about it. We've got this extraordinary opportunity at the moment with both sheep and cattle where we've never seen prices probably for the last 25 years like them. So converting grain into red meat and then choosing the right vitamin mineral premix actually delivers this compounding effect up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we know that those economic times aren't going to be forever. And the faster we do it, the more times we play at the table. So we've got opportunities to take advantage of where we're at while it's good. So, if it takes us 100 days and the 100-day window is only what the market is, we've only got one turn. But if we've got 50 days, we get 2 spins of that dice. So things have changed. We're not going to see the same economic situation we've got at the moment. And really, we've got to capitalise on every moment we've got in it.
Because the irony to this statement is, there's a time value of money discussion, but in parts of this feeding, you can't rush it. And induction is one of those component parts. Getting that wrong contributes to both mortality and morbidities and actually hurts your gross margin more than anything. Do you want to just unpack where you see that? Yeah,
look, it's really about we're taking animals that have been predominantly living on grass and forages and then transitioning them to a red-hot, high-carbohydrate diet. Now, that change takes time. We've got a bug population that needs to acclimatise. And if we think about bug populations and think about it from a pie perspective, is we've got a portion of the bugs in there that love living on fibre, we've got a portion that love living on protein, and we've got a portion that love carbohydrates. And as we come off forages, we've got a proportion that are really highly skewed towards digesting fibre. So we've got to then take that population and allow them to change and transfer to a more carbohydrate-based population.
And when you mean time to change, how long does that take?
Look, in a good induction protocol, we should be able to get animals from zero exposure to a feedlot ration to full feedlot diets within about 7 days.
Are you talking sheep and cattle or just sheep?
Both. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. What have you got to do to have that induction time down to 7 days? That's an extraordinary number.
One of the tricks around this is feeding frequency. Small amounts often change the population faster. So if we can put small amounts in front of these animals frequently, the faster we get to the transition.
Are we talking 1, 2 times a day, 3 times a day?
The more the better. I've seen some people do 14 feeds a day.
14?
14. And they had full induction and feedlot within 4 days. Because it's exposure and transition. We're feeding a colony of bugs that replicate and multiply. The more we expose them to the right substrates that we want to feed them, the faster they replicate and multiply. So if we want to run a once-a-day feeding program, it's going to take us 10 days to get to induction. If we want to feed 3 times a day, we can do that in 5 to 7 days easy, because it's about that transition time. These bugs only live for a couple of hours. We need to expose them in small amounts, get them to adapt. Expose them to small amounts, get them to adapt.
One of the things, if you don't get this right, is you add to mortalities and morbidities, which hurts your gross margin, but at the end of the day actually hurts your P&L as well.
Yeah, and sometimes, I know this will sound terrible, but dead sheep are not acceptable, but sick sheep are worse.
Okay, how?
A dead sheep is cheap to feed. A sick animal is very expensive to feed.
Okay.
So understanding that if we haven't got those animals firing on all cylinders, they are just burning money. So it's really a case of, if we are compromised in our management through that induction process, we are just tearing up cash if we don't do it right.
So you're really in that first 7 to 10 days, it's about hastening slowly, I suppose, and detail.
And detail, and being really conscious of what's going on in the pens. Do your paddock walk, look at the manures, look at the behaviour of those animals, respiration, lethargy. There's all these cues that they tell you that they're not feeling well.
Walk me through that. This is my first time in a feedlot, and I've just walked into a feedlot. There's something wrong. What do I need to look for?
For me, and it's just experience really, but the first thing I do is get in the feedlot and stand still. And I listen. The first thing I listen for is respiration rates. Can you hear them puffing? You shouldn't notice an animal breathe. That tells you they're not well.
Okay.
Then listen for coughing. So if we've got animals that are coughing in the background, we've got potential respiratory issues going on that we need to be aware of. The next thing I look at is the manure. We want something of toothpaste consistency. Not pebbly, not dry, means water intake's too low. Not liquid, not wet, means grain intake's too high. We want this consistency that it forms and it sticks together, and it's quite pasty.
And you're not looking for mucosal lining there. I mean, one of the terrifying things any feedlotter sees is they've seen something, they've started feeding on a Monday, by Wednesday there's something wrong, but to turn that back round, that takes days. And mucosal lining or blood in their feces is not cool at all.
No, not at all. It's you've basically stripped the internal gut out because of the pH. The acid is burning the internal lining of the gut out. So the other thing that I think is really important too is get to height, get down where the sheep are and use your nose. So things like ammonia accumulation, they are dense and they sit low. So we stand in a feedlot and look, and if I hear coughing but don't smell ammonia, I can nearly guarantee if I go down low, you'll actually smell the ammonia coming out of the ground. And because it's so much denser, you don't pick it up when you're standing at our normal height.
Okay.
So these sheep live down with their heads down. They're getting that exposure to ammonia, which causes irritation to the respiratory system, which it opens up for disease and infection.
You often spend a lot of time on the phone with customers with that diagnostic process, and you've often asked them to send through photos of the faeces. So we've actually graded that on the website, by the way, and you're welcome to take a look at it. But essentially, we've gone from 1 to 5.
Yep.
And what do those grades mean?
So fecal scoring, we want to be sitting, like I said, we don't want the runny manure. That's telling us we're going too hard, too fast. We've got sick animals. And we don't want pebbles that are hard and dry form, means our water intake and those animals aren't eating properly. We want something in that 3 to 4 range, soft, consistent, and toothpaste-like.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So if we cover this off, I mean, one of the most important parts of any economics is really time on feed, and then that in itself turns out to be about return on capital because you're actually speeding up your stock turns. I guess in one way you can think about it, it's a restaurant. So the more people you have through that restaurant, because it's the same number of tables, right?
Absolutely.
The more profitable you are.
Absolutely. The more we can get through in a short amount of time, the more money we make.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.